On this episode of the Layover Live, Ed Harris stops by to talk about crazy marketing ideas that actually might work. Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 171 of the Layover Live, where we bring you the top article from the Layover. I'm Jason Swick, VP of Strategy and Insights, and welcome to this week's show. Now, as destination marketers, we often strive to have the best, most attention-grabbing marketing campaigns out there. Of course, that's what our goal is, right? But that often means trying new things in a way that is sure to capture the attention of our intended audience. Now, we might use things like humor to try and get traction through laughs or social shares, or maybe come up with some new cool design or idea that gets people talking and sharing about the sheer beauty or even unique functionality of our creation. Sometimes these ideas fail, but sometimes unconventional and crazy marketing ideas work, and they work really well. So our article of the week this week comes from morningbrew.com and discusses one of these unique ideas using rideshare out-of-home ads, and someone who's currently leveraging this exact idea is our good friend, Mr. Ed Harris, who's the president and CEO of Discover Lancaster. So, Ed, welcome to the show. I'm finally glad to have you on.
Really happy to be here. I'm excited to talk with you, Jason. Love Simple View, and happy to talk about what we're doing here in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania.
Yeah, love it. So let's get into it. I think for some folks out there who don't know you, maybe a little bit of background on yourself, right? Because you're still pretty new to Lancaster, right? So maybe give a little background.
Yeah, sure. So I've been with the organization now just over 1 year, 15 months exactly. And it's a great destination. We're about 90 miles outside of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and 90 miles outside of Baltimore, Maryland. So two decent markets to be feeder markets for us, and a good retreat away from some of those bigger cities. We're definitely more of a mid-tier size destination. People like to come to our destination to get away and relax. We have a beautiful countryside. We're known internationally for our captivating Amish community, and our neighbors, as you may know about the Amish, they live the simple life. But people have been coming here in large waves through the summer and fall, probably because we have a lot of things that are spread out in terms of things to do here, lots of outdoor activities. So we've actually really benefited in terms of our geography. And prior to answer your question, prior to coming to Lancaster, I served as the Chief Marketing Officer for the Valley Forge Tourism and Convention Board for 6 years, right outside of Philadelphia. I used to like to refer to that as sort of the backyard of Philadelphia. And prior to that chapter, I spent 15 years in the fashion, apparel, and sneaker world, working as a brand developer for companies like Converse, Timberland, and Under Armour, to name a few.
Yeah, and good stuff there. I think that's really helped you to kind of think a little bit differently coming from that different industry, Ed, which we talked about a little bit too. And I know you gave a little bit of background on Lancaster a little bit, right? And because some of the folks out there may not be familiar with the area, so understand where it sits. But maybe before I get into my next question with you about using Carvertise, maybe what are some of the challenges maybe the destination faces? I know you're trying to look for great ways to draw awareness to that, but maybe before I get into that, maybe a little bit more on Lancaster, maybe some of those challenges before I jump into my next question with you.
Yeah, sure. And I think it's a challenge that a lot of destination management executives face in their everyday work. And I would say for us, it's probably going beyond the perception that exists of our area. We do get a lot of people who visit this area to unplug and get a peek into sort of this timeless world that the Amish live in. And it is fascinating to see horse and buggy rides across the countryside and things like that. It's almost like you're transported back into another time. And I think there's sort of been a yearning for that for a lot of people as they sat at home during the pandemic. Sort of this less is more, simple life kind of idea. But what we're trying to do here is make sure that, yes, that is what makes this place very different and special from many other places you can choose to travel to. But there are a lot of other things, like I said, with other destinations, we're trying to make sure people know about places like our wineries, uh, our farm to table restaurants, even our family friendly amusement park and our outlet shopping and our golf courses and lots of other things that add to that differentiation that the Amish piece brings. But like other destination management organizations, we're trying to sell a lot more of the toolbox from a tourism asset standpoint, so to speak.
Yeah, no, thanks for that background because I think it really helps folks understand. Yeah. Although you don't have you have the same challenges that lots of other DMOs have, you do have the job of getting awareness out of your destination, what it has to offer, which is how you came up with this idea around Carvertise, right? And how this opportunity came about. So I would love to jump right in that because at first glance, you and I were talking at eTourism about this a little bit. And I loved your presentation where you got to share with how you came up with this idea, which I think is brilliant. And again, there's other DMOs in the space doing it, but I love what you guys have done with it because it is thinking out of the box a little bit as it relates to generating awareness for our particular destinations because it is a little bit different, but it's very effective. So maybe before we get into some of that, what is Carvertise? What exactly does it have to offer? And how did this kind of crazy idea come about?
Yeah, sure. So Carvertise is a very unique company. It's what I would like to describe as a very fresh marketing tactic.
Mm-hmm.
And what I mean by that is we're all tasked with coming up with seasonal campaigns every year. And to your point earlier, we want to stick out, we want to be different
Mm-hmm.
because there is a lot of competition. There's lots of places you can choose to visit and spend your money and lots of experiences you can go after. And so how do you stand out amongst the crowd? And Carvertise allows you to do that because imagine having a billboard that can travel around and be in front of a ton of eyeballs that you're trying to reach. And basically, what Carvertise is, it's advertising on cars. And so they wrap the vehicle or they give you the sides of the vehicle to brand with your messaging.
Mm-hmm.
And what's really interesting about Carvertise is it blends newer technologies. When I say newer technologies, they can, with GPS, track all the vehicles that you're branding in a particular zip code. They can send you reporting on where those cars are driving around to make sure they're not sitting in a garage somewhere. And then from a grassroots level, they recruit drivers who you want to connect with. So imagine being able to have your branding on a minivan that's targeting families and being driven by a soccer mom who's also giving out visitors guides to that audience. And so you can get very super targeted with not only where you want cars driving around that have your message, but even if you want the types of cars and the types of people who are executing it. And to kind of finish on that point, going back to something you said earlier, Jason, their most popular drivers now through the Carvertise platform are actually Uber and Lyft drivers who not only want to get paid to drive people around, but why not get paid for having that advertising on the cars they're driving as well?
Yeah, I love that equal exchange of value on both sides. I love that, right? And it is a great idea for branding. I love the idea that it can also be interactive. So that kind of leads me into this next part about success, right? And some of the results that you're able to get out of it, maybe even sharing some of the results that you guys had in Lancaster, if that's top of mind. But I would love to hear about measuring success because it's very intriguing to think about, wow, not only can I skin one of these and I can do it from a car standpoint or from a fleet standpoint or all the above, but then I can also have the drivers interact, right? So talk a little bit about measuring success and what that might look like, because I think it's pretty cool that way.
Yeah, no, that's right. And typically I should start by saying when you do partner with a company like Carvertise, you're looking at, having a partnership that's going to last for as little as 6 to 8 weeks. And there's a reason for that because of the cost and the time of wrapping the vehicles. But you can have, 20 vehicles driving around a key market that you're trying to attract to your destination and have very specific zip codes. Maybe you want to hit more of the higher income neighborhoods and you have these cars driving around all day in those neighborhoods. And so from a tracking standpoint, it's nice to be able to know where are those cars actually driving. So we do receive that kind of information, but when it comes to the customer and if they're seeing it or not, what we've seen is that when you have a custom URL that's going to drive people to a particular, let's say, hotel package or promotion, you can really gauge how many people are really seeing that creative, whether they're seeing it out and about while they're driving or even sitting in traffic on a busy highway and seeing this car that stands out from any other car, assuming you design some really cool creative that sticks out. So using the URL to track your creative response is one way. I mentioned the heat maps that Carvertise provides. And then also, like I mentioned before, on the grassroots side, how many visitors guides or coupons have the drivers been able to hand out to people who inquire about what is all this stuff on your car? So you can gauge some metrics through that as well.
Yeah, I love it. Great. It's kind of this guerrilla marketing approach, right? Which you're excellent with, Ed, and always have been. I think looking at it's kind of this traditional out of kind of or out of home kind of meets digital, right, in a perfect way. I love that, and to be able to target zip codes and with this traveling branding and billboard type approach is super cool. So one thing we've asked about, again, you being somebody I respect so much and being one of the, I feel like, the best at what they do, maybe sharing some advice, right? This is something we've been asking people on the Layover probably close to the last 2 years now, because I think the advice is important that we all share some of this. So maybe, again, being a leader in the space, how about any advice you want to leave destination marketers with out there?
Yeah, sure. Well, I think as a marketer, we all want to stand out, right? We all want to do things differently. And with a platform like Carvertise, because it's relatively new and not a lot of companies are using it yet, although, I mean, it is a company that's really gaining traction with brands like Netflix, Buffalo Wild Wings, 7-Eleven. I mean, they're growing like gangbusters. But in terms of the tourism space, yes, they are starting to, gather a lot of market share, but it's still relatively new. And whenever you can be new, I think, coming from the world of the Under Armours and Timberlands and even Converse, some of the brands I had the chance to work for, it was always about what's new from a product standpoint. But I think that's the case also with your marketing tactics. If you can have new marketing tactics where you're showing up, regardless of what your message is, that's going to create some traction. And so think about it from a PR standpoint when you're allocating dollars, and think about testing some new things, because oftentimes it's those new things you're doing that the local media wants to talk to you about because it's new and because it's different. And so you have an added edge right off the bat without even getting into what is that really cool creative imagery or messaging that's going to go along with it. So I think as marketers, when we think about tactics, yes, we can do out of home, traditional billboards, TV spots, right? Magazine ads, the things that have always been done. But when there's opportunities and new vehicles, no pun intended, to put your message out there, I think it's worth a shot. And, from an advice standpoint, we all been hearing at various conferences in the tourism circuit about artificial intelligence, chatbots, and how, Facebook Messenger can be pulled over to websites, and how email technology and email open rates have been going down as, artificial intelligence improves and social media has become so much more advanced in terms of engaging with customers. There's just so many themes that are new happening right now in our space that I think you got to be a certain amount of risk in marketing. I think that, Jason. I think the better marketers understand that whether it's a unique message you're putting out there or testing a unique tactic, there is a certain amount of bravery because you're putting your dollars out there and you're placing your bets But I found that when it's something new that you're testing, it's a win-win, because not only are you going to get attention and be different in the marketplace, but there's a good chance that people are going to want to talk to you through a podcast or want to write a story about it as well.
Yeah, again, great advice from one of the best. I think, I love to hear you say that experimenting and testing new things, right? We've said that constantly on this program. We talk about even using like the 70-20-10 rule, right? 70% of dollars used on things are always going to work, and you've seen some variation, Ed, probably of that. 20% on things that are close adjacencies, but then spending that 10% on some of these new ideas and new experiments that become your new 70% or your new 20%, right? You got to try to do that, right? So I'm thinking of some of the things that you're doing, some things that Leroy did when he was at St. Pete's with the, creating a television program or a series around that stuff. Those are things you got to give a shot for, because they're new and exciting. To your point, you get first mover advantage on a lot of these, which gets you a lot of buzz around what you're doing and brings that awareness to the destination. So yeah, great advice, Ed, and so happy to have you on. I appreciate you coming out.
Anytime. Love the fact that you reached out to me. I'm just going to make a quick plug for a restaurant week. If anybody's coming by our area this week, it goes through the weekend, and we're actually having a restaurant week here that promotes not only restaurants, but the farms that provide for them. And so we partnered with the Lancaster Farmland Trust to give it that added benefit of going out and supporting our local restaurants. So I know this is a national audience, but if anybody's East Coast and passing through the area, pop by our neck of the woods, because we've got a lot of really great farm-to-table restaurants.
Yeah, love it. Great idea. If I was out there, I'd be doing it myself, buddy. But good seeing you again, Ed, as always.
Awesome. Thank you, Jason. Thank you, Simple View.
Yeah, you bet. And thanks for tuning in each and every week. If you're not subscribed, please do so now. We're also available through audio podcasts, through Spotify or iTunes. So thanks for tuning in, everyone. We'll see you next time, and have a great day.